What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Litflix with Coach Dalton. This one is going to be all about Mark Twain, aka Samuel Clemens, because you read one of his pieces this week, and he's going to be on your final test, in addition to potentially being read in the future. So I'm just kind of going to give you a really casual explanation about some of his work. I gave this to a student today, and she said that this was really helpful in her reading this week, so I thought it would help a lot of you. All right, the first thing, why do you know Mark Twain? Well, he wrote The Advice to Youth that you read this week that we're going to talk about a little more. He wrote The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and I used him this week specifically because he loved satire, which we know what that is after this week's lesson, and along with that, he used satire to push the envelope, all right, aka go a little bit over out of bounds sometimes. Weird facts about Mark Twain, all right? The first thing, Mark Twain isn't actually his real name. His real name is Samuel Clemens. He wrote under many pen names, which are fake names, essentially. And why would he do that? Because he often did things that were unconventional or not really appropriate for this time, all right? And we'll talk about that a little later. So he was often called a humorist, okay, because he liked to write what other people found was funny, but the people who the pieces were about did not think they were very funny. He even wrote an old-fashioned smut, which is like dirty writing. He wrote this one piece that was written from the perspective of the queen. It was supposed to be her diary, um, talking about many suitors that she was with and all of the physical interactions that they had. So that obviously didn't make people very happy. And so you can see why he didn't write under his real name, because he was making a lot of people angry. He left school after the fifth grade. Now, don't let that be an excuse to drop out, because he is obviously a special case. But he didn't have any more formal schooling after that. But he kept writing while he worked on a riverboat. Fun fact also, Mark Twain is the name of a boat piece, is what I have gathered. And so he got the idea because the riverboat captain that he worked for would often yell, Mark Twain! And so he almost felt like he was answering to that. If any of you ever make the joke that your dog thinks its name is No, because that's all you do is yell at it, Mark Twain heard Mark Twain all the time, therefore that's the name he picked up. Some other interesting things about him. Okay, he briefly served with the Confederate militia, but he quit after 5 weeks. Now, that should be 2 weeks. Many people like to say that they jump to the conclusion that he was a racist because he served with the Confederate militia. However, he claimed that he was ignorant during that time, and he totally renounced his slavery, and he came out and formally opposed it. He was actually a very liberal, very peaceful man. He liked to basically let people believe in doing what they wanted to do. He wrote about real people. Huck Finn was based on a real person and real stories. Jumping Frog was a story that he actually heard from a drunk man in a bar one day, and he was like, this story is awesome, I'm going to write this down, and then it became one of his most famous pieces. Again, he was very well known for making people mad, so this can explain his attitude behind many of his texts, which we are going to talk about. One thing he believed, and one thing that I think is going to support what I'm saying today, is he was quoted being against censorship, which is the idea of just not publishing, not allowing books and words to be in circulation. We still see this nowadays with the censoring of books, the banning of books. So I love this quote by him. He said, censorship is the idea of telling a man he can't have a steak because a baby can't chew it. So he thinks that, look, if a man can handle a steak, it doesn't matter if a baby can't chew it. It doesn't mean nobody should have steak, all right? He believed the same thing with books and writing, newspapers. Just because one person doesn't want to read it doesn't mean that everyone else can't read it. All right, a little bit about his advice to youth and his idea of writing against the grain that I want you to understand. So Advice to Youth was a satirical piece, all right, a sarcastic piece, telling the youth to follow the rules. But if you read it closely, it was really him exaggerating the rules that adults put on them and also telling the youth how to get around things, right? He said, if you're going to be a liar, make sure you're a good liar. So if you read the introduction before the piece, it said that that piece made a lot of people angry around the time of Prohibition. Think of it like if you were listening to music and your parents thought that music was going to influence you poorly. All right. That's kind of what Mark Twain was. He was a rebel. He liked to make people question the way things were done. And that is why we see his use of satire so widely talked about today, is because he was very good at it. All right. So next time you're reading Mark Twain, make sure you read it with a satirical lens. Okay. That's my mini lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you understood it. I encourage you to go to YouTube and type in Mark Twain fun facts. There are two videos that I'm not going to show in school, but they are rather entertaining and accurate. There's one done by Weird History, and there's one done by Comedy Central. So again, I encourage you to go watch those for a little bit of Mark Twain fun facts in a fun way that's going to be memorable for teenagers. Again, remember, your Core 4 test will be next week, May the 4th. All right, you want to review poetry, transcendentalism, and remember what I said about Mark Twain. All right, guys, good luck, and we will see you soon.